There's a particular meeting I'll never forget. I had just wrapped up what I thought was a brilliant strategy presentation to a leadership team. We had the data, we had the slides, we had the rationale, the roadmap, and I had spent days preparing it. And yet the room was cold. Not a literal kind of cold, though it was February in Helsinki, Finland, but the kind where you feel your message bouncing off the glazed over ice. One executive glanced at their watch, another scrolled their phone, and the CEO gave me one of those polite diplomatic nods that clearly meant thanks but no thanks. Didn't buy this. I walked out of the room thinking, what just happened? I've always been the overachiever, the one with excellent grades at school and rewarded performance at work. So that moment was bitter. I was humiliated, not by the audience, but by myself. I felt I had disappointed the audience, and as a fresh entrepreneur at the time, it stung for years. Years after, when I had already started learning storytelling, I went back to that moment and it all made sense to me. It hit me. I had been talking at them, at the audience, not to them, and definitely not with them. I had delivered this flawless strategy, but I had completely missed their story. I had treated that moment like a performance when what they really needed was a guide. I had tried to be the hero of the story, like many business consultants who want to be the heroes, not acknowledging that their role is actually that of a guide. And that is what all of our clients are looking for. They want to be the hero. They don't want you to be the hero. When I realized this, I stopped thinking like a marketer and started communicating like a story-driven leader. And today I want to help you make that shift too. Because if you want to influence people, win their trust, move hearts, and spark real action, your ability to lead with story is not just useful, it's actually non-negotiable. Welcome back to Story Driven Business Podcast, my friend. My name is Susanna Rantanen, and I identify as your guide to your success with a plan on how to use business storytelling in your role. This podcast is for growth-minded communicators, business leaders, and people managers, regardless of your role. However, you probably identify as a CEO or another C-suite role, founder, co-founder, team leader, or someone who works in employer brand management or content creation. And I know it seems like quite a wide target audience, but let me explain why it makes all the sense. We all have growth mind in common, wanting to grow in our professional roles and career, improve the business results of our areas of responsibility, and we are all eager to develop our minds, our capabilities, knowledge, and skills. Influencing other people with our communication is central to our success and in our roles and daily work. And we also have purpose-driven attitude in common, don't we? So if you noticed, I referred to us, not just you, because I identify myself as part of my target audience. And in this episode, I want to walk you through why business storytelling isn't about telling tales, and why, if you want to become a truly impactful and influential communicator, you need to start acting like a guide, not a guru. Let's begin by setting the record straight. Storytelling in business is not telling fairy tales, posting heartwarming videos on Instagram, or entertaining your audience with once upon a time vibes. Business storytelling is the skill of using narrative thinking to create meaning and movement through your communication. It turns vague goals into clear missions, tried values into emotional buy-in, and strategies into shared missions and journeys. Here's the secret most leaders don't realize. Humans are narrative-driven creatures. We remember stories 22 times more than facts. We make decisions based on emotion, and then we justify them with logic. And we look for patterns, characters, outcomes, systems because that is how our brains are wired. And yet, so much of business communication is the opposite of story. It's cluttered, it's confusing, it's very much me-centered and void of meaning. And this is where story comes in, not to entertain, but to translate your message into a structure that the brain of your target audience is ready to receive. Story is strategy. Story is structure. Story is how you make people care and then act. Think of storytelling as the difference between a list of facts and a reason to care. In my book, Story-Driven Employer Branding, I describe this mindset shift with a simple but powerful framework, what I call matching minds with mission. Without an emotional and psychological connection, your strategy won't stick, your culture won't connect, and your messages won't move. People won't change their minds or their opinions or their ways of work or what they were just about to do just because you gave them facts or you asked them to do it. They change when they see themselves in a new story, in a new narrative. Your communication as a guide needs to be an invitation into that story for those people who you want to be influenced by what you tell them or ask them, who you want to take action you suggest or need them to take. And on top of that, who also feel it makes complete sense to them to buy your idea. Think how you want them to think and do what you need them to do. Not because you manipulated or lied to them, but because you described what their future looks like if they do just so. Now let's talk about what I believe is the most game-changing storytelling principle you can learn as a leader. You are not the hero, they are. And with them, I refer to whoever you want to influence with your message. So this rule of 3 is how we help our clients, from CEOs to employer branding professionals, completely reframe how they communicate. And here is that essence of modern storytelling and leadership. So number 1 is that your audience is the hero, not you, as said. They're the ones facing a challenge, searching for clarity, wanting transformation, whether it's a burnt out team member or a misaligned stakeholder or a confused potential hire. They're on a journey. Number 2, you are the guide. Your job is not to swoop in as the superhero. It's to empathize, to share a map, to say, I see you, I understand, and I can help. Think of Gandalf, Dumbledore, Yoda. They don't fight the battles. They show the hero the way to become what they want to be and need to be. And then 3, the message must offer transformation. People don't want features. They want freedom. They want to move from frustration to focus, from stagnation to purpose, and from fear to clarity. So your message must clearly cast that future. What becomes possible? Who do they get to be on the other side, if you like? Whether you're pitching an idea or launching an employer brand or rallying your team, this rule of 3 creates that clarity, that urgency, and vision that turns communication into connection. So it turns your message, what you're wanting to say, into connection. So let's talk about what this looks like in real business life. Let me bring this to life with a few examples, the kinds I've seen again and again through my agency, employer branding agency, Eminent, helping our clients apply the story-driven employer branding method I created, the one that many of you know as the magnetic employer branding method. So example 1, internal communication that actually works. Instead of announcing a change with cold facts and timelines, or as kind of an announcement of the change, imagine hearing this. We know that the past year has stretched many of us. We heard your feedback and we're ready to be better. We're ready to do better. That's why we're introducing a new way of working, one that helps you focus on what matters the most without burning out. That's empathy. There's the problem. You're providing them a path forward, and that will create a transformation. Example number 2, employer branding that pulls talents in. So instead of talking about referring to yourself as we are a leading innovator in logistics and automation or whatever is your field or your industry, try saying something like this. If you've ever felt stuck in a job where your ideas go unheard, that's the problem. We built this place for people like you. Here, your voice isn't just welcomed, it drives the business forward. You are now telling their story. They're the hero. You're the guide. And the job, that is a journey. That is part of their career journey. We are living in a time when trust in leadership is at an all-time low. People want purpose. They want meaning more than ever, I think. They want to feel seen and heard, not just requested to or sold to. And in this noisy, distracted, algorithm-controlled world, attention is no longer freely given, it's earned. You know how I say that attention is no longer this default that is just already switched on whenever you need it. It's not, you have to earn it. I many times quote Seth Godin because I just love his wisdom and his thinking. And he said that marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but the stories that you tell. I want to take that quote further. Leadership is no longer about the title you have, but the skills you have to inspire, empower, and gain the required trust for others to act on your call. Another really well-known author, Simon Sinek, reminds us that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I would also add that they also buy what your why can do for them. So storytelling makes that why not just clear, but irresistible. Storytelling is not about a video. It's about transformation communicated in your message. Now, why does this work? Well, there's neuroscience and there's trust and there's the magic of belonging that goes into this picture. So I want to geek out with you for a second. So when you tell a story, you light up the sensory cortex in the brain of your audience. When your story is relatable to them, it triggers what we call the mirror neurons. Those are the part of the brain that make your listener feel like they're experiencing what you're telling them in themselves. And you've experienced this thousands of times by reading a book or watching a movie or a series, TV series, where you really relate with the character or with some character in that story, and you feel like you are experiencing what they're experiencing. You really feel like you're living it. And that's how empathy is built. That is why storytelling doesn't just inform, that is why it transforms, because you kind of put yourself in the shoes of the person who is talking to you or who is telling the story. And when people feel emotionally engaged, they retain the message longer, they can associate it with trust, and they feel compelled to respond. And this is leadership communication at its highest level. It doesn't command, it doesn't convince, it connects. Now, you might ask now, like, but Susanna, what if I'm not a natural storyteller? Well, nobody is. We were only built to understand stories, but telling stories is not in our DNA. It's something that we can learn, and we need to learn if we want to practice it. But the marvelous thing is that you don't need to be Shakespeare. You simply need a new lens. You just need some structure and a shift in focus. And here's a quick sheet to get you started. First, you have to know their problem. What is your audience struggling with? Be very specific. Choose one problem only. Go deeper than the surface. Really agitate it. That's number 2. With empathy. Help the audience feel that you understand what they're going through. You understand this problem and how big the impact of staying stuck will be for them. And then show the transformation. Show what's possible. What is waiting for them on the other side. Not in a vague, better future way, but emotionally, practically humanly with details so that they can really feel it. And then invite them forward. Your call to action, your CTA isn't do what I say. It's come on this walk with me. Join me. Let's do this together. Follow me. Now, this is story-driven leadership communication, and I can guarantee you it works. So you want to start with these 3 simple shifts. Instead of, here's what we do, say, here's what you need. Speak directly to the pain points your audience is feeling. Be specific, be bold, and be human. Instead of our mission is, say, we believe people like you deserve. Make it about them. Help them see themselves in your message. And instead of broadcasting, invite on a journey. Say that here's the next step. Let's walk it together. That's what a guide does. They don't give you a map and then just say like, go on your way. They walk beside you. We use these shifts in our clients' work every day, and these work because when people feel seen, they lean in. They want to hear more. And when they trust you to guide them, they move. Okay, I can be honest with you. Obviously, the reason why many leaders avoid storytelling isn't because they don't understand it. It's because it requires vulnerability. When you lead with story, you show your personal values. You show what matters. You expose emotion, and you admit to failures, making mistakes, hardships. And many of us were taught, especially in business, to do just the opposite, to stay polished, safe, rational, controlled. But here's the paradox. The more human you become in your communication, the more authority and influence you earn. Brené Brown says that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And I believe vulnerability is also the birthplace of trustworthy leadership. Becoming a story-driven communicator, it does take courage. It means stepping out of jargon, letting go of looking smart and choosing to be understood instead, choosing empathy over ego, and getting vulnerable enough to say, I've been there too. I know how to get you out of this. But when you do make that shift, oh, the power that you will unlock. You go from leader by title to leader by trust. You create culture through connection. You attract talent, not with perks, but with purpose. You stop pushing and start pulling people into a future they want to believe in. So let me ask you, what would change in your business if you started telling stories that moved people to act? Not because they had to, but because they really wanted to. As you take this in, I want you to know something. You don't have to figure it out alone. I've dedicated my life's work to helping leaders, from HR professionals to founders and C-suite leaders, unlock the power of storytelling through the Magnetic Employer Branding method. It's all in my book, Story-Driven Employer Branding. But more than that, it's how I lead my life and my business. When you see yourself as the guide, not the hero, you take the pressure off of yourself. You focus on service, not status, and you build a brand, business, and culture that really pulls people in. If you're ready to become that kind of a leader who guides with clarity, purpose, and unforgettable stories, start by reading my book, Story-Driven Employer Branding. It's available on Amazon, or you can also order a copy directly from me with an autograph at storydrivenemployerbranding.com. Also, hop over to modernemployerbrand.com, the home of this podcast, to dive deeper into this topic and everything around it. And why not share this episode with your boss, colleague, or someone else who you think should know more about business storytelling? Because story-driven communication is not just how you lead, it's how you win trust, influence change, and build a brand that people believe in. So let's go be the guide they've been waiting for. And I want to leave you with this question. What story are you telling every time you speak, post, write, or lead? Because whether you realize it or not, you're always telling one. The question is it a story that inspires, connects, and moves? If not, I'm here to help you rewrite it. My name is Susanna Rantanen, and this is the Story Driven Business Podcast. Until next time, keep leading with story.